Welcome to another edition of our Sawdust City Happy Hour tastings from the cottage with my dad. This is my dad, Brian. We are hanging out. Everybody. We've had some beers as we've been hanging out at the cottage, so I thought, why not bring him on to celebrate, of course, our Sawdust City Happy Hour tastings on Fridays and heading into the weekend. Of course, if you want great promo codes to be able to get some exclusive deals from Sawdust City, you can do that by going to our podcast this week. I had on Julio Caravata from the BC Lions, color analyst, to talk about that. I also, on Wednesday, broke down everything around the CFL training camps with Derek Taylor as we dove into Masoli and Evans, the Ticats quarterbacking situation. And on Friday, myself and Kyle Mello looking at filled stands in Winnipeg for the season opener on August 5th, which I know everybody is very excited about. So you can get all that in the podcast, plus, of course, the promo codes and everything that you want for Sawdust City beer. And today, Sam Corbeil, we are discussing something near and dear to my dad's heart, which is stouts. And you guys have got a great variety. We've had some of them, but we have not had the Skinny Dippin Stout thus far. So tell me about the Skinny Dippin Stout as we crack these guys.
So Skinny Dip, I think, is perfect for the cottage in that that's where the name comes from. It's the color of water at night. Is black, and that's sort of why we went with that for this, because originally I wanted to call it night swimming, and then Rob's like, why don't you just call it what it is, which is Skinny Dippin'? And it was, it's alliterative, so it sounds good. It's Skinny Dippin Stout. And it's one of our original core brands. It's been around for all 10 years we've been around. So, and it's probably our most award-winning beer. It's won 7 silver medals. So I also might want to call it Always the Bride. Just keeps on coming in second. It's like Jim Kelly.
The thing that jumps out to me on this, aside from kind of on the nose right away with it, kind of having that classic stout, is how smooth it is, which I know is a theme that we've gone through with Binary System and some of the other beers that you guys have made that are a little bit more flavorful. But how do you get Skinny Dippin Stout to be so smooth? Because I think a lot of people look at the darkness of stouts and they get intimidated by them and think, well, it's going to be overwhelming and thick and heavy on my stomach and all the rest. But it's a pretty smooth beer considering all things.
Well, I think that's one of the things we always talk about is not being afraid of the dark, because that is something that people, tend to get shy away from is the darker beers, because they think that they're going to be so flavorful that they can't handle it. But they're very light. It's only 5%. There's a lot of roasted malt, but we use a lot of oats to give that sort of cereal character and the smoothness, sort of that silky body. And we, it's a very easy drinking beer, like something that you can have with a meal or after, or just chilling. I think, you just have to get over that initial fear of the dark and you're good to go.
I think it'd be very good pairing wise with the, burgers or a steak, or
for sure.
Really would be smooth with those.
Those roasted flavors, like especially if you get some charbroiled off the barbecue, like those black and charred flavors really work well with this burger. A blue cheese burger with sauteed onions and a stout is, like, honest to God, one of the greatest things on the planet. So try that. Like, it's got all the flavors work together. Blue cheese and stout are just perfect. So you add in that charbroiled burger and some sweet onions, you got yourself a feast.
When you went through everything over in Europe, learning about beers, how much time did they spend, or did they spend any time on pairings and the idea of being able to find things that were suitable for you to kind of open your own? Or is that something that you've kind of leaned on at Sawdust with the people that maybe are more of a food background?
It was actually a book that my wife gave me when I first returned from Germany, which was called The Brewmaster's Table by Garrett Oliver, who's the brewmaster at the Brooklyn Brewery in Brooklyn, New York. And a lot of that is about food and beer pairings. And I found it very interesting. It was like something I hadn't thought of. They didn't talk much about that in Germany. Sure, they had beer with food, but I mean, their styles there are very limited, at least the ones we had access to. And their food was very much, pork, potatoes, and cabbage. So there are obviously other things, but like it was very pigeonholed. So coming back here and having access to not just all these styles of craft beer in North America, but also, we have access to so many great types of food. I was living in Toronto at the time. It's all the cultures of the world. So you have access to a great varied amount of food and flavor profile. So it opened up a lot and opportunities to try different things.
The way that the stout has trended in the last 10 years, how is it similar or different from what we've talked about with IPAs and some of the crisper pilsners and lagers and things of that nature in the summertime? Like, how has it changed in the last 5-10 years, in your opinion?
I feel like these types of stouts, your sort of run of your mill everyday stouts are, they always sit just right there. There's never enough of them, but people don't buy enough of them. And then it's the crazy stunt stouts that are now popular, which, we've dipped our toe in that game and that's fine. But like, those are the ones that sort of, they're Instagrammable and, they're cool with the kids. But like, you come back to the beers that you want to drink every day, something that's stable and trustworthy, and you can have a couple and it's not overbearing. Like, I loved Lusciousness, it was great, but like after a one tall can, you're kind of like, yeah, I don't need another one of those. This you can have a couple of and not worry so much, and it's great with food.
I also am wondering, when you talk about kind of the way that it's trending, where people like kind of the stunt stouts, because there's some stuff out there that's crazy. What's some of your favorite stunt stouts where you've seen them, you've heard of them, maybe you've made them yourself, and you're just like, okay, sure, I didn't see that coming, but somebody got crazy and decided to go off the wall?
Well, the guys at Third Moon in Milton, they actually do a lot of big, crazy stouts. I have some in my fridge right now. I just met one of the brewers that he came by and dropped some off. So I've been excited to get into those, but I was just on big. They're a little elevated in ABV, and I was away from home. So I'm like, it'd be better if I just have this at home. So I'll get into those soon, but they do some pretty crazy stuff. Lots of mixed flavors, big bourbon age stuff. And I had a crazy one when it was the first sort of like my introduction to it, where they finished the beer, like the finishing gravity being, I think it was over 10. It was like 12, which is like the starting gravity of our Little Norway. So this beer finished, so the sweetness is that the entirety of the beer of Little Norway is still in there. So big, rich stout, and it was made with cookies, and it was at a brewery in Nashville, and I'd never had anything like it. It was like 40 degrees outside though, so it was quite not the beer I really wanted. It's so hot that when you put your phone down and immediately it's like it's too hot and your phone shuts down. That's how hot it was. And you're drinking a beer that I think it was still like 9% as well, and super sweet and cloying. I'm like, this isn't really hitting the spot, but that was sort of my introduction into it. Oh, the Bearded Iris, that was it. And they were giving cookies away, and I think I actually got it just because I wanted a cookie more than anything. Like these big chocolate chip cookies, which I guess went into the mash, but like when you see a big chocolate chip cookie anywhere, I mean, everybody wants chocolate chip cookies.
That's a good way to go for anybody, and I'm sure you guys have pulled off tricks like that too up at the saloon. I'm sure over time. But what do you got for Sam there, Dad? Is there anything else you want to ask him before we finish up?
No, I just really like it a lot, and you're right. It's nice and light, and it works in the summer. Here we are at the cottage drinking a stout, so it doesn't have to be the middle. Doesn't have to be the middle of winter at a ski resort, you know.
Nice. Well, Marshall's been saying how much you like the dark beers and the bigger ones, so I'm glad you were able to finally join us, and we got to go to have a skinny dip with it. So that was perfect.
Yeah, if he has too many of them, I'm afraid he might go skinny dipping. So I might limit him to one or two.
I was afraid he was going to say when it was one of my favorite activities that it was skinny dipping that he was talking about. It may have been back in the day before he came along.
Well, Sam, thank you for this. It's great as always, and I know that people can get it again. SawdustCityBeer.com is the place to be able to go. Can art is fantastic, as we always show you here on the Sawdust City Happy Hour tastings, and we're looking forward to more cottage days ahead.
I better get ready to go skinny dipping.